Our gathering hymn is number 118 in the gray hymnal. Please stand.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I am Brenna Norville, and I will be your celebrant today. We welcome Homilist Marcia Christenson to the pulpit today. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Mindful of truth ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. And in the quest of wisdom and love, let us join together and say our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the heart's secret places. Blessed is the heart with strength to stop its beating for honor's sake. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. We light our second chalice for our partner church in Szymanfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And we light our third chalice for our children and youth in lifespan religious education and in our world at large. Let us sing the flame into life. Compassion. Not my turn.
Hello. Thank you for your patience. Just real quick, there is no RE next week. So just so everybody knows. All right. This book is called Everything is Connected. Everything is connected, and since you are a part of everything, you are connected to everything. You are connected to a human body, to hands and eyeballs and teeth and toes and elbows, a butt and even a nose, to a heart and some lungs and a strange-looking stomach and a brain that's so smart. There's no peak it can't summit. Yeah. You're not just a body. You're bigger than that. You're connected to people, to everybody, to moms and dads, to sisters and brothers, uncles and cousins, grandfathers and grandmothers. You're connected to friends and to teachers at school, and even to people you don't think are cool. You are connected to people in Denver and Maine and Paris and Baghdad, to strangers in Spain. You are connected to every human on earth. Wow. And they are connected to you. You are also connected to hedgehogs and cats and dogs and squirrels and birds, rabbits and cows and deer by the herds, monkeys, tarantulas, dolphins, and snakes. Friend, you're connected to every big, small, hairy, slimy, snuggly, scaly, floppy, flappy, bristly, beautiful creature on earth. Even blobfish. Blobfish, you say? Surely not that. They don't look like me, talk like me, or act like me. They probably stink. But you see, we're connected. We all play a part. In life, we're the same. We're all blobfish at heart. Now, this next part, though bonkers, is true, I'm afraid. You're connected to everything humans have made, to toys and to playgrounds, books and to chairs, gardens and medicine, language and prayers, buildings and bicycles, buses, balloons, hammers and paintbrushes, tractors and spoons. But also to chickenpox, bullies, and lies to greed, and to pollution and trash piled high. You're not just connected to things that you like, things that are comfortable, easy, or nice. As a human, you're part of everythingness. And sometimes it's scary and a big, ugly mess. But the good news, my dear, is that you are quite powerful, a force that's in everything, timeless and wowerful. You're even connected to things you can't see, the invisible world, for at least you and me, to cells, DNA, diseases and death, amoebas and gravity, atoms and breath, to hydrogen, nitrogen, nanobots too. You're connected to them, they're connected to you. You're connected to happy, connected to sad, to the past and the future, to thoughts you've had, to pharaohs, Ben Franklin, T-Rex, ancient Greece, to love and to poverty, hunger and peace, to Jesus and Buddha, Muhammad and Moses, to spaceships and aliens with noses like hoses. You're connected to all that will be or has been. You're this very moment where all things begin. For you are the sun and the moon and the stars, Venus and Jupiter, Neptune and Mars, comets and galaxies, voids and black holes. You are the universe, perfect and whole. All right. I like that one. All right, could everybody come to the center and perform or create the love arch, please? And thank you.
Okay, now it's my turn, and the slide even says so. Compassion. I was given a smile the other day from someone who passed me on their way. I wasn't sure what I should do. Perhaps I'll leave it up to you. If I should keep it for myself, put it on the kitchen shelf, then it would be a certainty to bring some happiness to me. Somehow that just doesn't feel right for me to keep it in my sight, when there are others who might need a waft of warmth. Oh, yes, indeed. It doesn't take so very much, a cheerful smile or a gentle touch, to lift the clouds that another bears, to help them feel that somebody cares. There is one thing we all should know. A smile is like a candle's glow. No matter how many candles share this light, its fullness is still there. So when I go out in the street, if I share them with my precious smile, do you think that it will be worthwhile? For hopefully, they too will understand that a smile is like a helping hand. I'm hoping that you will agree, for someday you share a smile with me. Gratitude. Be grateful for the kindly friends that walk along your way. Be grateful for the skies of blue that smile from day to day. Be grateful for the health you own, the work you find to do. For round about you, there are men less fortunate than you. Be grateful for the growing trees, the roses soon to bloom, the tenderness of kindly hearts that shared your days of gloom. Be grateful for the morning dew, the grass beneath your feet, the soft caresses of your babes, and all their laughter sweet. Acquire the grateful habit. Learn to see how blessed you are, how much there is to gladden life, how little life to mar. And what if rain shall fall today and you with grief are sad? Be grateful that you can recall the joys that you have had.
Good morning. And oddly enough, I don't know how many of you know Karen, but she put smile in big red letters on my script this morning. So, I'm George Pitter, your Lifelines lay minister this morning. The Lifelines lay ministry assists the minister in providing compassionate caring to members of our congregation. We also connect with those who are homebound, and we endeavor to provide a welcoming presence to visitors. And we can be contacted either on the website, or you can call the office and leave a message for us. This morning, I have 4 concerns. The first 2 are from Jessie Wilson, and she says, I recently wrote with a concern about my little granddaughter's health. I'm glad to say that she's doing much better, so I guess that would be a joy. And my former stepdaughter, who left an abusive relationship earlier this year, is doing well. Thank you for your prayers and positive thoughts. And I'd say that's probably both. From Patty and Gary Metz, please pray for our good friends as they go through a difficult time for the family. And from Leslie Zeigen, please pray for my dear 89-year-old friend Walter, who fell and broke 2 ribs this past week. And I'm going to light one last candle for all the joys and concerns that weren't shared with us this morning. Thank you.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Between 2 words. Between 2 words, choose the quieter one. Between word and silence, choose listening. Between 2 books, choose the dustier one. Between the earth and the sky, choose a bird. Between 2 animals, choose the one who needs you more. Between 2 children, choose both. Between the lesser and the bigger evil, choose neither. Between hope and despair, choose hope. It will be harder to bear.
Good morning. I'm going to be talking to you about silence. Someone in the congregation suggested I call it shh. But we're going to start with something, is this better, Leslie? That I want you to experience. That was one minute. 1 minute of not talking, of not being, I hope, distracted by sounds. But we did hear sounds, and I'm going to talk about that. But anyway, for a lot of us, I think we felt kind of anxious, impatient. When is this going to be over? How long is she going to make us do this? Well, it's been said that I talk too much. And I know that's surprising for some of you who know me. Might think that that was never been said, but it's actually been said to me. I'm a verbal processor, so I like to talk to everyone, and I do. I talk to everyone. I talk to the grocery clerk. I talk to the wait staff. I talk to people I see on the beach. I talk to people I know. I talk to people I don't know. I talk to everybody. I'm also pretty famous for saying things that you're not supposed to say out loud, even if everybody in the room seems to be thinking that. And to illustrate this, I'm going to pick a couple stories that my parents used to love to tell about me because they're kind of embarrassing. So I was born in New York, but my mother's parents lived in Seymour, Indiana. So we would travel by train between Snyder, New York, and Seymour, Indiana. I was about 4. We were on the train. In those days, in the dining car, the chairs in the dining car were pretty small. And there was this very large woman sitting on this very small chair. I was about 4. So I said, "Lady, do you think you're going to break that chair?" So probably because we got thrown off too many trains on the eastern seaboard, when I was about 5, my parents moved to San Francisco. And I did actually get them kicked out of an apartment complex because I was too noisy on the stairs. And there were pilots that lived in the building, and they were sleeping during the day. But my father used to take me to work with him in the city, and it was a fun day because he picked a day where he was out and about a lot, and there was always a fun lunch. But this one day, I was about 5, he was meeting with a client, and evidently I looked at her for a little bit, and finally I said, "Are you old? You look really old. You look older than my grandfather, and he's almost 100. He did actually take me to work again with him after that, but it would please him no end he's dead now, but to know that I recently had a little girl about that age look at me for a little bit and say, "Are you old?" And I said, "Well, yes, how could you tell?" And she said, "Well, your hair, I don't know." But there's been many times where people have wanted to squelch that inclination I have to just say what entered my mind. Once, there was a letter, insubordination in my personnel file because I rolled my eyes at a boss who'd said something really stupid. But today our world is almost never silent. And even during that 60 seconds of silence, we were aware of a door opening and closing a couple of times, people's feet shuffling. We maybe heard a hum in the building. It wasn't really silent. Scientists say, I'm interested in sound because I'm, as a musician, very sensitive to it. And they say that if we were in absolute total silence, our tinnitus would become so loud that it would actually drive us crazy. The sun roars at us. The earth has a hum. Our refrigerators have a hum or a buzz or something else equally irritating. But I promised to talk about silence in the context of, is it noble silence or ignoble silence? And I'm going to start with noble silence. We often think of silence as that time when we step away from the world and we, to meditate, to be in a quiet space where we can be free of distractions. We quiet our minds, our bodies. In a chant that we recite weekly in my Buddhist Sangha Zendo, we acknowledge that absorbing world sounds awakens a Buddha right here. And this chant is followed by periods of sitting, and I mean sitting still, like sitting still, not wiggling, not itching the ants that suddenly are crawling all over your face that really aren't there. Sitting still. And it's really hard for me, by the way. The purpose is to move away from distractions, to allow our minds to be quiet and to clear away, separate from that busy, noisy clutter that gets in the way of knowing ourselves, knowing our true selves, being in touch with our good intentions. My mother's family were Quaker, and in North Carolina, I can't say the town, as early as 1670. But those early settlers didn't like the Quakers, and they ran them out of town. The Quakers were known as the quiet people, and they believed that you could not hear that still small voice of God if you were always talking. You had to be silent. That was a noble silence. It didn't stop them from being abolitionists and working on the Underground Railroad in southern Indiana, where my mother's people ended up, helping slaves escape to Canada. So they did stand up and speak, but they were silent so that they could hear that inner good voice talking to them. For nearly 10 years, I led a meditative music service 2 to 4 times per month in the Salem area, Willamette Valley area, and we emulated the Vesper service of the Taizé community in Taizé, France. This service is based on a very simple Christian message with music that joins the silence. It was like a bell. You join the silence, kind of crescendos up, and then rejoins the silence. And the silence was actually a legislated construct of the service, so that it wasn't just a come in and make noise for 45 minutes and leave. It also included 10 minutes of silence right in the middle. We'd ring a bell like a singing bowl, and for 10 minutes sit in silence. The musicians in this organization, this group, we called ourselves the traveling tasers. And for some of these tasers, that 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. It was so long. And I would look over at them kind of wiggling and, squirming, and it was hard because we're not used to doing that. But the intent of that silence was to create a silent space that rested the mind from the noisy, chaotic clutter of the world outside, and to open a silent space to hear that still, small voice of God. Our attendees really valued this respite from the outside world, and in fact, we had some pastors that would come on Sunday nights because it was nice to just come and be in silence and be in that rest. The Bible is full of stories of Jesus disappearing for periods of time to pray or otherwise commune with God. He seemed to both understand and model the idea that we must go into that silent space to reach the deep parts of ourselves and communicate with our God or higher power. One of my favorite stories about Jesus is when, and this was actually it was a setup to try to trick him, but he brought the people that were trying to set him up brought a woman in front of him, and they told him that she had just been caught in adultery. And what did he have to say about that? Well, he didn't fall for this setup. Instead, he looked down at the ground. I wish I'd had a cell phone and been there, because he wrote something in the sand or the dirt with his finger. We don't know nobody knows what he wrote. But he said to these people, no, take a look at yourselves. They all had rocks in their hands, by the way, because they were going to stone this woman to death. And he said, no, if any of you are without any blemish or dark, the one version says sin, but if you've never made these kinds of mistakes, then you can throw rocks. They stopped, they looked inward, they all dropped their rocks and left. He didn't give a big speech about moralizing or anything. And he asked the woman, has someone condemned you? And she said no. And he said, well, then go. Go away. And that was all there was to it. But the point was, he told them, look at yourselves. And then the other thing that has haunted me about this is, how did they know that she had done that and she had just been caught? Was she doing it in the middle of the street? Did somebody walk? We don't know. But it was gossip. I mean, here's this whole big group of people putting this woman in the middle of this square, and they're going to stone her to death. And that was gossip, which is talking and saying things that we're not supposed to say. One of the 7 venal sins, according to the Roman Catholic Church, is to knowingly defame another person's character by spreading falsehoods. There's a lot of things out there about not telling those stories. In these cases, noble silence is not repeating those stories, not saying those things we heard, not saying mean and ill-intentioned things about other people. And we all can think of lots of times in our lives when keeping silent and not chattering away, not allowing our minds to be full of intrusive, obsessive thoughts is a very noble thing. When holding our tongues or spending precious minutes in meditation helps us as individuals, and by extension, helps our communities. So does that mean that we only say those things that are cheerful and positive? We never speak any contrary words? We never argue amongst ourselves on any point because we might be interpreted as being mean or hurtful or offensive? So when is silence not noble? When is silence ignoble? Well, the word ignoble has 2 different meanings. One is not honorable in character or purpose. It also can mean humble in origin or social status. But in this case, we're looking at silence that isn't noble, silence that is not honorable in character. After being, and I want to tell a story about, well, this is another funny story. After being out of the workforce for 12 years with kids, I have a lot of kids, I was going to be back at work. And I was pursuing this adult career as an adult professional woman. And I had a meeting scheduled with the chairman of the board of directors of the organization I was working for. And I was in a professional outfit that day. I felt invincible. You know those outfits you have in your closet where you just put this on and I can conquer the world in this outfit. And it had this gorgeous full skirt. So I'm on my way to the meeting with the chairman of the board, and I thought, I'll stop in the ladies' room, powder my nose, check my lipstick and hair. Didn't realize that the back of my skirt had gotten hung up in the waistband of my pantyhose. Not a good look. So I go in there, and I meet with this gentleman, and he kind of smiled. He was a retired Standard Oil refinery manager. He kind of smiled at me and he said, the hem of your skirt is caught in the waistband. I was mortified. But how many times have we not said something like that to somebody because we don't want to embarrass them, or we ourselves don't want to feel embarrassed? Because that can be kind of an embarrassing thing to say sometimes. I thought it was great. I interpret it as that he respected me enough as a woman to say that to me and not let me go prancing around for the next 2 hours with my skirt tucked into my pantyhose. So, have you ever withheld information from someone to avoid hurting them or avoid having an awkward conversation? Have you ever had an argument with a friend or a spouse or a family member that resulted in deciding that you would never talk to that person ever again, which sometimes lasts 10 seconds, sometimes 10 years, though. I mean, some people will go the whole rest of their lives not talking to you because I'm so angry and I have this grudge. I would not call that noble silence, by the way. But the idea there is to punish the offender. It's not an honorable intention. And it does happen often, probably too often. I have a friend whose way of telling her spouse is to give her spouse the cold shoulder, silent treatment. How many have ever done that? You don't have to show hands. But it's a thin line sometimes between saying what needs to be said and what should never be said out loud. And in dispute resolution, which is my day job, there's times where you just need to separate for a while. calm down, have a chance to rethink your position, rethink the other position. But there's other times where we just walk away because we just don't want to be bothered talking to this person. And that intention of that separation is what matters at that point. As kids, we sometimes didn't tell our parents everything because we might face negative consequences. I know no one in the room can relate to this, but gambling, they'd never find out. Our motto might have been, what they don't know can't hurt me, right? And sometimes, though, kids keep quiet when they see a friend participating in dangerous behaviors because if they tell, they tattle, there might be some punishment coming for the child. And there's often this kind of twisted sense of betrayal when one kid rats on another kid. Kids don't always anticipate the trouble that's created by not telling. And at these times, both kids and adults don't say things that maybe should have been said because they were angry or they were afraid of consequences. Lately in the political scene we're facing these days, standing up to say what we know to be truth is not only difficult, but it can be dangerous. I was one of that kid who was perpetually the newest kid at the bus stop, the classroom, the playground. I sometimes kept ignoble silence when faced with bullying, so as to be seen with fitting into the right crowd. I didn't want to attract the wrath of the in-grown crowd by standing up for this obvious outcast on the playground because I was new and I wanted to fit in. When I was in the 60s, I'm from San Francisco. In the 60s, protests were ranged from peaceful sit-ins to violent confrontations. I have been tear gassed, but I can't say it was for a noble reason. I was a freshman at university, and I heard that someone was setting fire to the ROTC building. So I showed up for the show, but so did the police and the tear gas. And so I wasn't really out there protesting. I just kind of wanted to see what was going on. But it's hard for us to sometimes say, stop it. It seems worse sometimes to tattle and to go to a teacher, a parent, or adult who might have stopped that situation. We watched a few summers ago the initially peaceful marches for Black Lives Matter become hijacked by people so angry and full of hate that many feared to attend. I found myself in that latter group. I've been tear gassed, I just said that. It's one thing to sing songs, as I often do, about social justice, but it's something else to actually go down into the front lines and march. One feels very comforting and, pretty noble, and the other feels terrifying. In Seattle recently, a high school student brought a gun to school and shot another student, and guns are not allowed in Seattle public schools. But on Monday, November 14th, at the high school where I have 2 grandchildren attending, the students organized a walkout protesting the Seattle public schools' lack of any visible action around protecting students from gun violence. My granddaughter Ava, who's a freshman, participated. Her older brother did not. But Monday night, my Seattle family group text was exploding with all kinds of comments about Seattle public schools, what they're doing, not doing, walkouts, their effectiveness. And I thought, this worked. Because whether or not that walkout changes guns coming to school, look at the conversation that it started within my own family. And that's where change happens. I don't know that the walkout was silent or noisy. I wasn't there, and Ava I haven't seen her to get all the details. But this is how change happens. We can't assume the walkout was silent, but the actions yelled, probably even louder than my eye rolling in that office that morning. So do we share then everything we think? Do we speak our truth as is our right? Or instead do we keep our silence and convince ourselves it's kinder to do this in regards to people with whom we disagree? Do we ever warn others about harmful behaviors we observe in other people? Well, gosh, there's got to be a balance in there somewhere. The middle way, as we say in Buddhism. How do we find that? I think we need to understand our intent in either keeping silent or speaking out. Are we engaging in silence or noise that intends kindness, clarification, growth, love? Or is the intent of our silence or noise to grab power and to be disruptive or to hurt somebody or punish somebody? All of the deep spiritual leaders we've come to revere over the millennia have spent time in some sort of meditation and spiritual reflection, time apart from their group and the distractions. So I think this is true about everybody. We all carry in our heads a little hamster on a wheel that runs, creating messages for us, that explains things to us, to explain perplexing events, to remind us or nag us about why things happen or don't happen. And that little hamster can get really loud and drown out better reasoned thoughts. And that little hamster is pretty good at inventing stories that can be very far away from what is actually true, even though the stories can sound pretty reasonable, because that little hamster knows how we think, and it knows the social and cultural mores of the world we live in and our little group of friends. For me, walking outside, sitting in meditation, and playing music creates a positive focus that spends that unpleasant energy, shuts that hamster's volume down, and helps me to understand my own good intentions so that I can better live into them. I don't make it 100% of the time, but every even small success can help the people around me. When I can distinguish my own hamster-invented stories versus what is really going on, what's true, I can better serve those around me. And then perhaps the people around me can feel safe to identify their own good intentions, and so on, out into the universe. By understanding my own intentions, I'm much more likely to be able to discern noble silence when I should speak and say, from ignoble silence, to say what needs to be said with courage and kindness, and let go of those things that should never be said, and then feel peaceful with that choice. So to close, I highly recommend finding this space and time in your day. Remember that 1 minute, how long that felt? It felt like a long minute. But on my watch, I have this thing that reminds me, it's not a hamster, it's on my watch. But it tells me, you haven't just sat for a minute. My Buddhist practice demands that I sit and just sit. That's so hard for me. I'm like the Jemima Puddle Duck of sitters. Go read Beatrice Potter. Find that happy place where you can turn off distractions and silence that hamster a little bit, and maybe challenge those messages that our little friend sends us. Rest your mind. Notice thoughts, but let them move along. Don't hang on to them. And see if you can then hear that still small voice guiding you toward living into those good intentions. Thank you.
Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and the sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen. We support UUCS through our pledges, our time, and our connections with one another. We support the Salem community through donations to the Marion Polk Food Share, and for the month of November, the microfinance team. Please send your checks to UUCS or visit the website to donate. Thank you for maintaining the community of UUCS and for helping the wider community of Salem. Next Sunday, Lefty Lamentations with Reverend Rick Davis. I wonder if it's about left-handed people like myself. Can awareness of how we are affected by trauma, repetitive stress, abuse, and poverty help us achieve healing, understanding, and acceptance? News of the community. I have a couple of social justice announcements. Christmas wreaths made by a women's farm worker cooperative are being sold in Hanneman Hall. Starting next Sunday, we will be collecting socks, gloves, and hats for the houseless. There will be a box in the lobby for your donations. Please visit the UUCS webpage, Facebook, or the newsletter to find out what else is going on in our community. We take light from our chalice, lighting the social justice lantern. We take the light from our chalice, lighting the social justice lantern as a symbolic reminder of the light and justice we carry out into the world. As we extinguish our chalices, let us hear these words by Martha Kirby Capo. Our time together is finished, but our work is not done. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet the challenges of the week to come. This chalice flame is extinguished until we ignite it again. with the spark of our communion.
Our closing hymn is number 131. Please rise. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard line. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep to giving. Love will change the world with your love. Love will guide us, hope inside us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Let us join with our community members, guests, friends, families, saying these words together. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. Blessed be.